Good morning and welcome to the Mayor's COVID-19 briefing for May the 1st, 2020. As of this date, as of 30 April, rather yesterday, we unfortunately within the parish have experienced 286 positive cases of coronavirus and unfortunately 17 deaths. Our non-essential employees continue to work from their homes as needed and as feasible. But our police and fire departments, our public safety folks are essentially fully staffed. And I'm going to ask the two chiefs to make brief comments. So, Chief Zagone.
First off, once again, I'd like to thank first responders, healthcare providers, and essential employees that are all around the city still working, your utilities, your garage, your finance. Just a lot of people. The mayor and his staff, everyone's still working that are essential. One thing today I'll show you, we've gotten more PPE N95 masks. We got a big order in yesterday. The most important thing I want to say is a special thank you we made a partnership with Ochsner's LSU, and we've been able to go last Thursday and get trained on how to do the nasal swabs. We already know how to do the blood draw, but we've been able to offer tests to the whole fire department and now the police department and essential divisions within the city. We've done somewhere around probably 300 tests. We'll be wrapping up today. But it's good because this test, the nasal swab, will let them know if they're positive or asymptomatic walking around right now. The blood draw will test them for the antibodies and the titer if they've been exposed to it in the past. So that's pretty much the update. This is the kit because I always bring the show and tell. And so anyway, that's pretty much all I have today, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo what Chief Zagone said about thanking the first responders in the medical community and the other city employees that have been on the front line during this pandemic. I'd also like to thank Chief Zagone for being able to include the police department in on the study with the program that he's got involved with Ochsner's LSU. We are offering tests to all the police department employees. We tested yesterday from 8 to noon, and we're testing today from 8 to noon. And after that, the test will be sent off. I'd also like to thank the citizens of Bossier for adhering to the guidelines set forth by our president as well as our governor. It's been pretty easy for us. From a law enforcement perspective, we've been allowed to focus more on normal calls for service. If you've seen around the country, we've had some civil unrest due to the COVID. We haven't experienced any of that, and I'd like to thank the citizens for that, and I would ask y'all to continue your efforts until this is lifted, until we start phase 1. And like I said, it allows us to focus on normal calls for service and not have to worry about doing COVID enforcement. Our non-emergency number is 741-8605. You can call in to report COVID scams or any type of scam or anything that you think might be a scam. Remember, no government agency, nobody involved with COVID or anything of that nature is going to call and ask you for personal information such as social security numbers or anything like that. So if you do get any calls such as that, call the 741-8605. We'll get a report made and it'll be followed up on by our white collar task force.
I might just also add that we've seen no need to have a curfew in Bossier City, and none is in place at this time. Also, for additional information about what's going on in the city, I would like to refer you to our website, which is bossiercity.org. You got a great deal of information that expands on what we're presenting today. The most important thing we want to discuss today was a decision by the governor to extend the stay-home order another 15 days. It was to expire yesterday. The governor did present a new proclamation, Proclamation 52, late yesterday afternoon, which officially did extend the stay-at-home order to the 15th of May. The governor very much wants to resolve this economic and health safety issue and try to find that balance. And I think we feel optimistic that by mid-May we should be able to seriously consider going into phase one. But I have to acknowledge that the governor is limited by the guidelines that we receive from the federal government, which is the Opening Up America Again guidelines. That requires certain prerequisites before the governor can even consider opening up. And the federal government does make the guidelines available, but it clearly states that the governor has the authority to implement within those guidelines. And one of the things that has to happen before the governor can do that, he has to do, three things have to be met. We have to have a downward trajectory in symptoms of such things as flu-like and coronavirus type illnesses. We have to have the number of cases, positive cases, has to be a favorable downward trajectory, and that has to be over a 14-day period, not just one day at a time, but those have to be met. And we also, thirdly, we have to treat all patients without crisis care. So these are guidelines within the directive that the governor must adhere to. And so he is doing that, and we are reminded that the following items are things that we hear over and over again, but they're absolutely crucial if we are going to be able to get out of this or get into phase one recovery in a timely manner. You've heard it many, many times, but it's worth repeating. We have to have robust testing and then tracing, contact tracing after that testing. We have to have the healthcare capacity, and we have to plan to protect the safety of our first responders and other safety workers. We need to keep informing all of our citizens about the need for social distances and wearing masks where appropriate. And it's been directed that citizens are urged to wear masks, but employees who deal with the public, it's mandatory that they wear a mask for this. And lastly, we need to monitor the conditions. If we see that we're about to have a rebound or anything, we need to have the capacity and the initiative to address it immediately. In the governor's proclamation, it is essentially business as usual, but with three noteworthy changes that he did announce and which are in his proclamation. The first is malls will remain closed. However, stores within the malls can take the orders from people and then deliver those products to the curbside for pickup. They can't come in, but they can have a curbside pickup from individual stores within the malls. This is a change. Also, there's been a change for restaurants, allowing them to open up if they have space outside the facility where people can dine. You have to order your meals. The meals can be delivered to the door to the individual, but there's no indoor seating for it. And then at the outdoor venue, you still have to maintain the distance and wearing a mask, and there's no service. You have a meal outside and you drink all your drink. To get another drink, you'd have to call in on the number and have the drink at the door to come pick it up. So no tableside service at the restaurants. Also, the state fire marshal's office has put out a very extensive additional guidelines with regard to these outside dining facilities. And lastly, again, to emphasize that employees who are working with the public must wear masks, and should wear gloves also. The civilians are again reminded that they should wear masks when outside. Gloves are not recommended for civilians outside. To address this balance between the health crisis and the economic crisis, the governor has formed a commission of key medical and business leaders to help provide him with the guidance to make his decisions, and the legislators have formed a task force, a rather large task force, to also assist in coming up with how the state will proceed in working toward phase one recovery. The legislators are supposed to go back in session Monday, and I'm sure they will be providing the governor their input. There's a little difference of, not a little, there's a significant difference of professional opinion in that the governor is desirous of implementing our recovery actions statewide. Some legislators would prefer a parish by parish or regional contiguous parishes being able to open perhaps sooner, but that is not resolved yet. But the governor is the one charged by the guidelines to make the decisions for the state, and I'm sure he's listening to business leaders and medical people all over. There's been a great deal of information being generated about how to come out, what things we should do when we come out of it. Locally, there have been many very highly respected medical people, and then the Louisiana Association of Business Industry and the Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce and our local Chamber of Commerce have come up with some excellent guidelines. There's the people over in, I think, Alabama, have excellent guidelines of many good things we consider. Any state could consider, and we are doing that. We're also, even though we're not in phase one, we are looking at what we would do when that decision is made. We can looking up how we control entry, how we assist the citizens get to where they need to be and only need to be, and all those precautionary things. We are anticipating that and doing it in a safe manner consistent with what is legal. I would just remind everybody, although it's been touched on many times, we can't say it often enough, each one of us must do our individual share if we're going to come out of this in a timely manner. And we keep stressing, wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid touching your face, and that's hard to do because it's almost an instinctive thing to do. Sneeze or cough into the inside of your elbow. Disinfect any frequently used utensils or counters or doorknobs or light switches, those sorts of things. Wear the face mask when in public, and especially on mass transit and places like that. If you feel sick, stay home, and then contact and follow the guidance of your medical provider. I remain very confident that the citizens of Bossier City and Bossier Parish are going to continue to do what is necessary. It's incumbent on all of us to do that, and it's imperative that we do it. Practice these social distances and all these other parameters that are mandatory if we are to make a timely recovery. It looks cautiously optimistic that we can do this around the 15th May. The governor has announced that he intends to make his announcement on May the 11th about whether we will or will not come out on the 15th. But everybody's certainly working hard for this. We realize what a tremendous economic impact it's been on businesses, particularly small businesses, but all businesses. That compounded by the oil and gas industry problems and the horrible weather that we've had during this whole crisis period, it just compounded things. So it's been a challenge, but the citizens of Bossier City, Bossier Parish, and the state have always continued to rise to the challenge, and I know we're going to continue to do so. So I thank all of you for your active involvement in helping us achieve a positive result and come out of this, or rather move into phase one as soon as feasible. Thank you, and we will brief you again next week at the same time. Good day.